The Evil Bong franchise is a franchise that is very weird. It starts off with a small little horror movie and slowly turns into like a 9 slash sort of kind of 13 movie franchise. And in every single one of these movies, the main focus is, of course, the Evil Bong. And in today's video, I've gotten the chance to interview the voice of Evil Bong herself, Michele Mais. So here is the interview, and I hope you all enjoy. Well, firstly, welcome. Thanks for coming on. I do really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. But so, how did you originally get involved with the franchise? Did you have to do an audition, and if so, like, how was the audition process like?
You know, when I was doing a show in LA called Menopause the Musical, and I was performing there, and I signed up with a voiceover company, CESD, and I just got a message one day after the show about the Evil Bong, and I went in, and many films later, here I am, and interesting story. You know, Charlie Band is so cool. I thought it was going to be a one-shot deal, but you see, you know how many films there have been, right, of the Evil Bong in many incarnations, and and I would never know when they would spring up. I would just get a phone call saying, you know, can you come into the studio? And I've got another one. So one time I had, and the thing is, these always been great. If I was working in Arizona, we found a studio in Arizona. One time I was in New York, and actually they called me, and I was heading to the hospital for surgery. I had cancer, and I said, I wish I could come do it, but I got to go to the hospital. And they ended up kind of holding off on the project until I was available to record, which I thought was so cool. And I was so honored that they didn't want anybody else to do the voice. So that made me so happy. And I'm a Evil Bong chick for life, as far as I'm concerned, because I thought that was really special. And we Zoomed it so that he could be in the studio with me in New York, and he was just great. And it definitely lifted my spirits to be able to work. So that was cool. So that's how it all started.
That's great. I mean, what did you originally think when you first heard the, name of the project, when you first heard about it? What were your initial thoughts with that?
Well, I must say, I thought it was interesting. I mean, there's a lot of freedom now with many of the states have legalized weed and everything, but I'm of an age where, people were imbibing. And so I thought it was kind of fun. And I loved the way the bong looked. I thought Eebee was pretty sexy looking for a bong. And I always loved the red lipstick that she had, and her tendrils that were her bong tubes. And I don't know, I just thought she was fun, and that it was silly and, kind of crazy, but I enjoyed it. It made me laugh. And unfortunately, I never got to interact with any of the actors because all that stuff was done, previously. And even my big scene with Chong, we just did that in the studio. And I really enjoyed doing that scene with him. I thought it was fun, but it's all kind of pieced together later. So you don't get the actual interaction feeling. And also the person that's doing Eebee during those things is talking and saying the lines. And sometimes, I'd have to make sure my mouth was moving within the time that it was moving. Do you know what I mean? I had to say the lines in a certain speed for it. And as the films got, more and more advanced, that got easier to do. I thought that had shifted a little bit. And I thought, a lot of it had modernized as they continued doing the franchise. But I just always had a fun time with it, and always enjoyed it. And the people were great to work with, and we had a lot of laughs. And in fact, we kind of had a rough day one time with the King Bong that had come in the studio, and it wasn't really quite working. And we didn't, and I said, well, I got a friend who would be a great King Bong. And he said, really? I said, yeah. So we called my friend Michael Shepard and got him in there. And next thing you know, Michael's the King Bong. And we had a good time. We had done a play together called The Vampire, Venus Virgins and Vampires. So that was kind of fun to do with him. And they're just very open. There was a relaxed feeling. I just always felt like it was a fun opportunity and always great people. So, and you must like it, right?
Yeah, I love all of these movies. Like some of them, they get weirder as they go along. They get like
They do get
all
weirder.
different, and they're all they're all great in their own way.
Well, I have like this film of like 16 years of Eebee or something like that. I don't remember, but it has like scenes from all the different films, and it's just sort of fun to watch. I watched it and I was laughing, and they're written by some different people, so there's a different vibe to them. Some of them are a little bit more tongue in cheek. Some of them are a little sillier, some of them, but I think the actors are great. I love Rabbit, and I love they crack me up sometime, and when I'm doing the voice, so I have to stop laughing and stuff. So because Eebee wouldn't laugh at that shit. She's intense. Yeah. So, but it's always fun. It's always a fun time. And I love my favorite, I guess, when I first did the first show, I had to do those sound effects when they were like unwrapping her for the first time, and there was like lots of singing, and then she would. I remember my first line was one of the girlfriends said some crack about me, and I said bitch, and I just held that forever, and it was so much fun. So I don't know. I have a good time with Eebee.
Yeah, well, with Eebee, like, do you help like shape the personality of Eebee, or was it like already in the script? And how much of like your own like voice and style went into like making the character?
I think that a little bit of each, a little bit of both. Certain lines were written. Sometimes I would change a word or ad lib something. Or I remember at one of those one of the ends of the movies, I think it's maybe the first or second one, I started singing, I'm coming out, I want the world to know. And they kept it, and it was just really funny. And that was just me joking around with them. And next thing I know, it's in the film. So you never know what you might say or do might show up, And we have a great recording. Kenny's great, and I just had a lot of fun. It's never stressful, or it always feels like it's done with such great spirit and to enjoy. And they are kind of lovable, scary characters. When I was sick, I got a couple of stuffed animals sent to me that looked like the Evil Bong franchise characters, and it was very special, little gingerbread man and all bunch of crazy stuff. So it was cool.
Well, speaking of like Jada Dead Man and like other movies, are you a fan of like horror? If so, what's like your favorite horror movie?
Well, let's see. I do get a little freaked out by some. I don't like horror, like too much bloodshed. Like I don't, when it's like a lot of drilling or like sawing people or stuff like that. I get a little, that I don't really like that too much. I kind of like things that are more scary in your mind. You know what I mean? I remember the first time I saw Scream, I was working in the country, and I was walking through the forest after seeing the movie, and I was just thinking, I was hearing twigs everywhere I was walking. I thought somebody's following me. I don't know. But I kind of like more of the mental scary stuff, that can be that kind of horror is more interesting to me, and maybe and interesting characters. That's always the thing that grabs me. You know, if I click onto a character or I'm curious about them and like them or want to know what's going on, that always brings me closer into it.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like more horror for a minute, what like icon do you think Eebee would like hit it off with more, like Freddy, Chucky, like one of those ones where they talk a lot?
Let's see. Well, let's see. Who would she hang out with? Um, well, I think, I think she thinks she's Queen Bee, actually. I think she thinks I mean, she controls her land, her world. I love that she sucks people into her world and they end up in a whole different universe. So she's pretty powerful to be able to do that, right? And so I believe she thinks she should be the ruler of the world. I think there was one of the movies where she was talking about overtaking the world at one point. But I guess she also sort of has a temper a little bit and gets and I think she actually likes the people that even though she's putting them down and making cracks about them. I think she kind of likes all the people that she interacts with. So yeah, I think she's too nice for like a Chucky. I don't think or a Leprechaun, one of those scary guys. I think she wants to get you high and go into a different world where she's in control of everything. I think that's really her her plan, her ultimate plan.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you there that she like does like the people who she's taking into the Bong world. Like throughout the movies, you definitely see her not be as mean towards most of the characters except maybe Rabbit.
Right.
Like they definitely grow on her.
Yes. And they're like her family, like you have an uncle that's a turkey. You have, people have like you love your family, even though they're a little nutty, right? I think Rabbit making the restaurant, I think that's very crazy. You saw that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That made me laugh a lot. I was thinking of all the chef shows on TV when we were doing that. Um, yeah, I actually kind of like Eebee, I must say. I think she's mellowed with time, and she's also gotten stronger with time, in both ways. Um, and she seems less angry to me than when at first I was trying. You don't want to play anger the whole time because then there's nothing. So you got to find the moments to bring it back so that when it comes out, it can be powerful. But I think that she's gotten many more colors as time goes on. I hope she seems because she keeps coming back, right? You keep thinking she's I always think that's the last one. That's it. We're done. And then next thing I know is hi, can you come into the studio? So it just seems to go on and on and on. So I'm happy, whenever. And it's always great to get together with Charlie and have a few laughs and play in the studio. So the last time it was COVID, and so they sent me a microphone, and I had to set up a little studio in New York in my house um, and record line by line and send it, and then we mix it down. I mean, it was a whole big thing. Much more fun to be in the studio with the guys and doing it together,
Yeah.
and listening to them crack up. That's always inspiring. So, but COVID wasn't going to stop Eebee and Evil Bong. They triumph over COVID. So they got the film together and got it done. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last one kind of made it seem like it was the last one, but you've said like, that they'll just randomly call you up. So, if you had the chance to like be in another Evil Bong movie, would you take it? Like, would you do another one?
Oh, of course, always. I'm a sucker for Charlie. Anytime, I'm more than happy to do it. It's always fun. And wait, look. Wait a minute. Let me show you. I get gifts. I get a lunchbox. See my lunchbox, Eebee Bong. I get lighters with her little face on there. I get all sorts of treats. So cornucopia of delights featuring Eebee. So how could I say no?
Yeah. I mean, well, speaking of like Charles Band, have you seen like other ones of Full Moon Features movies? Like, have you seen like Puppet Master and Demonic Toys and stuff?
A little bit. To be honest, I haven't seen as many as I'd like to because a lot of the time I really am working, and I did Rock of Ages for 4 years on Broadway, and so I was doing 8 shows a week, and so I was kind of busy at some points and other points. So I really would like to see it, but I always try and see what he's doing with certain characters and little snippets of things. But I will always be interested in checking out more films of his.
Yeah, well,
I think he's quite brilliant. What?
Yeah. So well, speaking about like like on stage and voice acting, what would you say is like your biggest like difference between like acting on stage and like performing through only like acting?
Well, I mean, on stage you have your body, your voice, I sing, so there's vocal stuff, and then there's movement, and there's all this other stuff. And when you're doing voice, and you have to put all that stuff into the voice, you know what I mean? You've got to paint pictures with your voice, and you can't really show those things. So I think it's inflection, it's energy, it's pitch, it's quality, it's breath control, it's a lot of different things, there's a way of cutting off your vowels so they have very much distinctive sounds, and there's a way of really smoothing out your tones so it's very mellifluous. So I mean, there's all sorts of stuff I think you can do. There's also timing that's very important with voiceover work, because there's specific times that you need to speak within in order to fill the right spot for the mouth moving or for whatever's going on. So there are some more restraints involved that you have to adhere to. And then you've got to match so that your voice sounds, it sounds similar. And you're in, like if you're recording for many days, you need to get into the same place where you were in the other time so that it all sounds like it can all blend together and be mixed well. So there's a lot of thought going into it. But there is a lot of freedom to explore, and because you can redo cuts and you can splice together and you can do a lot of stuff in the studio post work and during it. It really is an art form, and when you have a great engineer to help, it's awesome, and it's amazing. You can change the pitch, and you can do lots of things in the studio as well. We don't do too much like doing too much of that stuff, though. I mean, I do that more like in when I'm singing. Maybe they can do certain things to change your voice quality or whatever, or pitch or whatever. So there's the voice is an interesting part of what I do, and I enjoy it. I think that it's very, very exciting because sometimes how you say it and what you say is not what you hear back afterwards, and it's like it can just transform and be really different. So it's a science unto itself, and one that is continually learning about, because things are getting more and more. I mean, I just remember when I first started, these mics were huge, and now like they're the size of an A battery, and and they used to have recording equipment that was massive, and now everything is so small and compact and able to travel with, and and get great precision. So it's an interesting, very interesting part of the business, and I'm very excited that I've gotten to explore it, and through the evil Bong, and that's been a lot of growth for me, because I've gotten a chance to explore and to improvise and to try things, and they give me a long leash to play with, and then when they want something very specific, they'll let me know, and hopefully we can all find what's the best thing. But we just always seem to have a good time, and it just kind of flows together. So I really enjoy my time working with this project.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on and talking about this. Do you have like any upcoming projects, voice work or like shows that like people should like look out for?
Well, right now I'm working with a woman named Denise Woods, and I'm working on accents and different dialects, and so I'm excited about that, and so we're working on that. And to be honest, I'm on a little bit of a break. I've had a couple of health issues that I'm working on, and I'm getting better, but we'll see. But always open, and I'm just glad that you wanted to talk to me about this. I was stoked. So thanks for thinking of me and inviting me over.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I'll have like your Instagram and everything like linked down below. And yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.